Hello Gayatri, welcome to Zenonco.io and Love Heals Cancer. I'm sure your journey would be very inspiring and will be inspiring a lot of people who are going through the same thing. So, could you please start sharing your journey with us?
Thank you, Nimisha, for calling me and giving me this opportunity for sharing my journey with so many of you. And yeah, my journey actually, I was diagnosed with a kind of blood cancer in November 2001. So this
Okay.
has been a long journey for me actually. Uh, Life was going great. I'm a pediatrician by profession,
Oh,
and at that time, I would say in November 2001, I had means everything was going good. I was feeling quite comfortable. I was working, and husband was in the Air Force, and I had two daughters. They were 5 and 7 year old,
okay.
and little did I imagine that my life was just going to turn topsy turvy in a short while. But
Yeah.
yeah, it started with like some pain in my left leg, just below
Okay.
the knee. And
Mhm.
soon, I mean, within a week, the pain became so much that I had to walk with the help of a stick.
Oh,
So
okay.
then we
What
got
was
an
your
X-ray.
age at that time?
I was 34.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was 34 years. And so being a doctor, sometimes, you tend to, I used to think, I thought that maybe this is some kind of an arthritis or something.
Yeah.
This is some kind of an arthritis or something. So just
Yeah. Sure.
so I said that let me sort of just take some painkillers and see if it subsides. But it did not, and it became so bad within a week that I needed a stick. So then I got an X-ray and all that. Suddenly
Mhm.
got all investigations done, whatever I needed for that. So in the X-ray, the doctor who saw the X-ray saw something which he did not like. He said, "I think there's a tumor."
Oh,
Then
okay.
thereafter, I was referred to the specialist, and it was
Mhm.
a so it was like a whirlwind thereafter because test after test. So initially they thought it was a bone tumor, so they said we'll operate on it, and
Okay.
I was operated immediately within a week or 10 days of diagnosis. Only I was operated on the tumor,
Okay.
and once the tumor, they had removed the tumor, they realized that it's not a bone tumor, but it is a kind of a blood cancer.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, and but what we had done that time, the surgery resulted in a non-union because my leg did not join thereafter. The fracture, no, it did not join. So it
Mhm.
was it stayed broken for quite some time, my leg, and I was walking around. After 6 months, I was on bed most of the time.
Okay.
They had started me on chemotherapy and all, and
Mhm.
after that, after the chemotherapy, also I had not improved at all. So they said, no, we need to do a bone marrow transplant.
Okay. Yes. Mhm.
So bone marrow transplant is a kind of treatment option for patients with kind of blood cancer that
Blood
I had.
cancer. Mhm.
It was called as multiple myeloma, the kind
Okay.
of blood cancer that I had. So I went through a bone marrow transplant, which is now there are two types of bone marrow transplants. One is an autologous, wherein your own cells are taken, collected prior to the transplant, and then they are re-injected back into you.
Okay.
That is, these are the
Mhm.
stem cells. That means the bone marrow cells. Cells from your
Okay.
bone marrow are taken, and then they are given back.
Mhm.
Similarly, there is another kind of transplant called as allogenic transplant, wherein some other donor gives you the cells.
Thanks.
Donor cells are given to you. But in my kind of malignancy, basically autologous transplant was means the one wherein my own cells were given was tried first. So this was in August 2003,
Mhm.
2002, wherein I
Okay.
had a autologous transplant.
Mhm.
And after that, within 4 months, I was sent to CMC Vellore. I'm staying in Delhi, and
Okay.
most of my treatment was done in the Army Hospital, Delhi.
Okay. Okay.
So after that, I was sent to CMC Vellore, and another transplant was done there.
Okay.
So this was a allogenic, mini allogenic transplant. That means a slightly milder version of a full allo transplant. Uh, these are all medical terms. I'm sure it might be a little difficult to understand, but I'm just trying to make it simple. so that the others also who listen to this will be able to follow. So a mini transplant is something like, where the full dose of chemo that is given to you, the drug that is given to you, is not as much as what would be in a full allo transplant.
Okay. It's comparatively less.
It's a little. It is called. It is something. See, whenever whenever a transplant is done, the cells which are the chemo that is given, it tends to destroy your own bone marrow, and then whatever donor cells are given, that is supposed to pick up and help your dead bone marrow to reactivate and start reproducing the bone marrow cells. So in this, it is called as a mini transplant is something which is called as a non-myeloablative. That means it totally doesn't kill the bone marrow. It is a little milder, because otherwise the side effects of the transplants are so bad. Sometimes one doesn't come out of the side effects only. Because after a allo transplant, one gets something called as a graft versus host disease. That means that the donor cells, they are going to kill the cancer cells, but along with the cancer cells, they also kill the normal, the normal multiplying cells in the body, like they can attack any other organ also in the body.
Okay.
And can cause a reaction to that. So because it might treat other cells in the body as also foreign, and it will start killing those cells. Something like that, in simple layman terms. So I went through a allo transplant in Jan 2003, and my brother was the donor.
Okay.
And thereafter, I developed a GVHD again, after that also, I relapsed actually. After the allo transplant also, I had a relapse in August 2003. So then again, my brother's cells were given to me, and I developed something called as a graft versus host disease, in which I got a condition called as scleroderma. Scleroderma is again a very debilitating kind of condition, I would say, because in scleroderma, if you read about it, it's an autoimmune condition wherein all the fibrous tissues and of your body, they tend to become, all the skin becomes very tight. It is so tight that if anybody would have held my hand at that time, they used to feel they're holding a log of wood. It used to be so tight. So that was the problem, and I still had a broken leg, at that time. But
in 2003.
2003, it was 2003. Yeah. So GVHD was in the form of scleroderma, and I had hypothyroidism. So GVHD took care of the cancer. I went into remission with that.
Okay.
I went into remission. So my doctor suggested I should take care of my leg. So I went in for a surgery of the leg, and a plate was fitted in 2004. 2004 February, a plate was fitted in the leg. But by the end of 2004 and early 2005, my scleroderma increased so much that my body was getting tighter and tighter. I had no elasticity left in my tissues. Absolutely.
Okay.
There was no elasticity. My face was like a mask. I couldn't open my mouth much.
You would be feeling some pain also along with this?
Yeah,
it
was painful, because see, when you can imagine when something cannot be stretched.
Yeah.
So see, the hands also developed some kind, something like my hands wouldn't stretch fully. They would be little like this. Whatever I would hold, sometimes things would fall down from my hand.
Because you did not, the flexibility was not there.
Absolutely no. And then it also affected my breathing. I couldn't breathe very openly because the muscles of the chest also were getting tighter, and all that happened. And because of that, the plate that was fitted in my leg, it broke. It broke while I was probably some kind of a stretch. I must have stretched my foot wrongly, and it just broke. Because see, there was no elasticity at all. And so this was in 2005 March. Okay. At that time, 2005 March, it was such a time that I had exhausted most of my treatment for my cancer because I had had two transplants. Chemo was given already, and my leg surgery had been done, and the plate had broken. And now, because of the scleroderma, they could not operate once again because they said if we take an incision, we cannot stitch it back because the
Back,
skin,
yeah.
there was no elasticity in the skin. So that's what happened at that time. And I would say, all throughout my cancer journey, that was the lowest point of my journey, wherein I was very low. I felt very low. Otherwise, all through my journey, I was always positive, and I said, no, I will. I mean, this will be okay. Everything will be okay. I'll be fine. I never told anybody that something is going to happen, and I never believed it. I always felt I would get out of it. But at that point, it was I would say it was the lowest point of my journey. I felt because the cancer also relapsed at that time. So and I felt that I did not have much of an option left for treatment. So yeah, but I was blessed that I had a very good team of doctors looking after me, from the Army Hospital also, and in CMC Vellore also, the one of the best hematologists in the country. They were looking after me, so I was really blessed that way. And I had a family which was very supporting. My husband, my parents, my in-laws, and it was there was a big support, extended family. Everybody, was always standing by me, encouraging me.
Right.
And good friends who helped me. So all those things also, they help to boost up your confidence and your positivity level. And I think they push you to fight. And also, I believe that you have to have a goal. You want to live for something. You So for me
Yeah.
at that time, my children were very young, so there was no way I could even think that I'm going to give up on this journey. I always felt I must come out of this journey, and I wanted to see them grow up. So I kept giving myself small goals. I never thought very far away, but generally I kept giving myself small goals. Okay, and I would dream about them. So suppose I felt that okay, 5 years down the line, my children would be so big. So okay, I'm going to be there for them. And one such day, I suddenly a thought came to me that I was meditating, and I saw myself standing at my children's wedding. So I said, okay. And I was a little amused myself at that time because they were so young. And but I just thought about it the other way. I said, see, look, now they are only about 7 and 8 year olds, and marriage is another 15, 20 years down the line. So I have given myself 20 years more. So nothing is going
Yeah.
to happen to me for another 20 years at least. So that
Right.
was the kind of way I would deal with my problems. I'm telling you, it was a very painful journey also at times, very painful. And because there was no break from hospitals for a good 9 years for me, almost from 2001
Yes.
onwards. So, and there were a lot of small things which used to happen during the transplant also, because my blood group was changing. My
Oh.
original blood group was O positive, but my brother was B positive. So my blood group was changing from O positive to B. So that
Oh.
transition of 6 months was such that I developed something called as a pure red cell aplasia. It's a condition wherein your hemoglobin keeps dropping very fast.
Okay.
So
Okay.
every 15 days, I had to go to hospital and get 2 bottles of blood inside me. So I used to joke with my children, and I used to tell them, it's time to fill petrol in this vehicle. Let's go. So I
So
used
which
to,
blood group was was given to you? Then like O positive or B positive?
no, see, when O positive can be given to anybody, and
Yeah,
O positive
that's
is
yeah.
a universal donor, so that blood can be given to anybody. But yes, I had turned B positive by then, so I just don't remember right now as to what was given to me. I was the patient at that time, so really I don't remember.
It's okay.
But
Yeah.
so that was till in 2005. Another wonderful thing that happened with me is that I. I was always spiritual, but like when you get sick and you get you are faced with a disease like cancer, which
Right.
is life threatening at times, and with the condition that is life threatening, multiple myeloma has no known treatment. I mean, no, it's not known to have a cure as yet. But yes, there are a lot of treatment options. So at that time, I started, my faith in God was much more at that time. I started moving towards spirituality. But yes, I was not sure which path I wanted to follow. I used to read a lot of Paramahans Yogananda's books, and I used to get very much influenced by his teachings. And especially one of his, quote, which I always remember, and I always mention it to even some patients whom I meet, is that he used to say that everything in this world has a will, like a willpower. So same is with your disease. Your disease also has its own willpower. But you have to decide whether your willpower is going to be stronger than the willpower of your disease. And that is going to be the turning point. And that really hit me like anything. And I always said to myself that many a times when my disease would relapse and I would be feeling very sick, I used to keep telling myself, I would talk to my cancer and I would tell the cells in my body that, it's fine that you are inside me, but always remember that I'm the stronger one. So one day you will have to leave this body and go. You're not going to win this battle. So these are the kind of things which I would say to myself to keep myself motivated. Then in 2006 December, I had another relapse. The tumor came into my other leg bone also. So the doctors decided to give me radiation, and the new chemo drug had come into the market. So they said they will try that. So I had my 1 month of radiation cycles, what would be given, and my chemotherapy was started. First cycle went off well, and the second cycle, I became very seriously ill. I had very bad pneumonia, and that pneumonia was not the normal kind of pneumonia. It was induced by the drug itself, probably. So there weren't many cases of such kind of pneumonias, treated because so. But I'm once again, very grateful to my doctors. They must have searched every article on the net. My husband also. They searched everything, and I remember my doctor from Vellore telling me that Gayatri, the outcome in the other cases hasn't been very good, but we'll make sure it's not the same with you. You'll have a good outcome. And I had trust in my doctors, both in the army hospital and in Vellore. They were really so caring, and they really took very good care. They did not leave any stone unturned, I would say, to see that, I can come as a winner in this journey. So I did come out of this phase also. And I have, I started in 2005, I started following Brahma Kumaris also, their way of meditation. And I had some wonderful experiences during my meditation at that time. So in fact, one thing which is very dear to me is that, when I got admitted for this pneumonia in the army hospital, the person who had taught me the meditation, he was also from the Air Force. So he had also, we just met him, by chance on that day when I was getting admitted. And I asked him, what are you doing here? So he said, no, I've just come for a simple blood test, because he had suffered from hepatitis C himself. So, in the forge, you have to have fitness every few months a year or something when you have some chronic problem. So he had come for that fitness test. So he said, ma'am, by evening I will be gone. I will go back home. So we said, okay, and we rushed because I wasn't get too well also. So I was admitted and all. I was admitted for almost 28 days in the hospital. And you won't believe that gentleman used to come every day and pray with me. He kept a photograph of God below my pillow. And every day he would come twice and meditate in my room. And after 28 days, I was discharged. And because then I asked him one day during those 28 days, why haven't you gone home? Means you had only one day of test. He said, ma'am, the kit is not available. So they will not discharge me till my test is done. The kit for the test was not available with the hospital.
Okay.
And after 28 days, when I was discharged, the
Mhm.
very next day, the kit became available and he had his test and he was discharged. So, this literally, reaffirmed my faith in God. And I really felt that, yes, वो कहते हैं ना दवा के साथ दुआ भी जरूरी
दुआ
है.
भी जरूरी होती है.
So that
When
was
God
a
sent him, like the number of days you were there, he was also there praying for you, meditating for you. Truly, yeah.
So that was one. I would always say a very good example of divine intervention. Where God
Yes.
is standing by you if you have to have your faith, complete faith in Him, and that was a wonderful thing for me. Turning point, I would say. And you won't believe it. After that, I just went into remission. My cancer never came back till date. After that day.
Wow.
This was 2007 April or May. Yeah, April.
So, sorry to interrupt, but what happened to the plate that broke in your left leg? I
Broken
cannot
inside.
hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
So after that in April, this happened, and I developed very severe peripheral neuropathy. Peripheral neuropathy is a kind of it's a condition wherein one can feel extreme those pains in your limbs, extra your fingers and your legs, and they are basically because the nerves of the peripheral nerves, they get affected because of the drugs what were given to me during chemotherapy. So it was pretty bad. I used to feel literally like when I used to walk, I used to walk with the help of a walker, and I used to feel that somebody has tied, those लोहे के जंजीरें बांधते हैं ना पैरों में, वो बांधे मेरे दोनों पैरों में. I used to find it so difficult.
Sorry, but your voice is you're muted, I guess.
No, it's not muted. I think it's okay. Can you hear me
Internet
now?
connection. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So thereafter, this was in April, but now the leg was still had the broken bone. In June of the same year, 2 months after this pneumonia episode, there was pus started oozing from the leg, the same leg where the bone was there. Broke, the plate was there.
Plate was broken.
So I went back to my doctors. They referred me to a surgeon, the orthopedic surgeon and a general surgeon. So they all had a meeting amongst themselves, and they said that the best way out would be to amputate the leg, because there was no other way they could think of anything at that time. So they told me best is to have a above knee amputation. So it took some time, but yeah, I went and met a few amputees in a place, and sort of tried to reconcile myself that at least my quality of life would be better, because I was not able to walk at all with this condition. So, but then just before the surgery, about a week before the surgery, a thought came to me that I should get a second opinion from somewhere else. So I requested my doctor in the army hospital, and he told me that, see, final decision should be yours, because this is your leg, your life. How many opinions you would like, you must take. So I went to Tata Memorial Hospital, Mumbai.
Okay.
And I met an orthopedic oncologist out there, and he was very optimistic that he would be able to save my leg. Okay. So he gave me a lot of antibiotics, and in the beginning, almost for 1 or 2 months, I was on antibiotics just to try to get the infection under control. And in December of the same year, that is 2007 December, they operated on my leg in Tata Memorial, and they removed the plate, and they cleaned the whole wound inside.
Okay.
Whatever. So after that, I was the leg was put in plaster, and I was on IV antibiotics for at least 1.5 months, continuous IV antibiotics. I had no veins in my hands. All my veins were absolutely like, it was difficult to find a vein because of so much of chemo and all. But that period also we went through. Then February, I had to come to get a review of that leg. February 2008. I went again to Tata Memorial, and when they opened the wound, they found that again there was a lot of pus inside. So again he cleaned the wound. Okay. And again I was put on antibiotics. After that, in March, again they opened. Again, it was still not okay. So he put a fixator from outside. It's called an ortho fixator. So that was put on the leg. It was a very painful procedure, but if we had hopes that with this maybe the infection would get under control. But by June, when I went back to them, he finally gave up and he told me, "Ma'am, I can't help you. If you need an amputation now, I'm ready to do it for you." So then just before, then he said, "Okay, there's one last option. What we can do is something called as an external fixator is put. There is a specialist doctor in Mumbai who does it. If you would like to go to him, I will refer you to him." Being a medical person, I knew about it because when in my student days, I used to see a lot of people walking around with those. If you have seen in a hospital, general hospital, in an orthopedic department, people walking around with metal frames around their legs.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Externally, there's a metal frame and there are needles moving inside the leg. So I was very scared of that. I said, no, I will not want to have that. But then I think I really attracted that towards myself because finally that was the thing which worked for me because I went to and met another doctor in Mumbai who was a specialist in this. And he conducted the surgery in 2008 June. And then with a lot of other repair work, he kept doing a little bit of adjustments and bone grafting and all throughout for the next 1.5 years. So initially he told me it's only for 4 months because I'm sure if you'd have told me 1.5 years, I would have not gone for it. So he told me no, 3 months. Every time I went to him, he kept saying 3 months, 3 months. But yeah, by the end of 1.5 years, the bone did join finally. The fracture healed, but my leg was short by almost 6 centimeters. So now my left leg is short by 6 centimeters, 5.5 centimeters to be exact. So I have to wear a corrective shoe. My left shoe is a little higher than the right shoe. So by now my scleroderma was also under control. I was taking medicines for the same. It was under control. Not that it was totally gone. I used to do a lot of yoga, in the sense pranayam, because my lungs also at one stage were getting affected. So the doctors had told me that if I don't take care of that, it's going to trouble me later on. So I used to do a lot of pranayam, maybe half an hour morning, half an hour evening of some breathing exercises, and that really helped. Me. So after that, I continued with my breathing exercises. The Ilizaro, the fixator, which was put on my leg, that metal frame was removed in November 2009.
Okay.
After 1.5 years. So thereafter, I have been walking with a stick. I walk with a stick basically more so because, outside when I'm walking, the left shoe is a little higher, so I tend to lose my balance. And I tend to fall a lot. So just to avoid the falls, I use a stick for comfort. So some ups and downs have been there after that, but at least the cancer didn't come back. But the medicines and the what all you have, the treatment, what you have taken, all that does affect you in some ways. But that's still a very small price to pay, to be alive and be with your family and, So I at this moment, I think I'm 20 years down the line. I have absolutely no complaints with anybody in life. I mean, I'm so grateful for everything that has come my way. So,
that's 9 years of complete struggle still has a lot of positivity. I'm so happy to see that. Like, how did your family manage it? Like, how did they, handle this situation?
See, children were young and luckily
very young, 5 or 7 years.
Yeah, so they were very young. See, they did not know anything apart. They did not know anything about the cancer as such, but they knew that I had a broken leg. So they used to, if anybody used to ask them, they said, "Hamari mummy ka pair toot gaya." That was the way of this thing, dealing with it. And we never in fact made them feel. I was like I told you, I'm very grateful to my in-laws and my parents, because whenever I had to be in hospital, my parents would be there with me, and my in-laws would be taking care of my children, and they never, my children never felt that the parents are not with them, because they received so much of love and care from the
In-laws
family,
and other family members.
yeah, other family members. So that is something which I'm really grateful for, because without that support, I don't think so we could have seen this day to day, wherein I don't know where I would have left the children and gone. If I had to go to Vellore, I have spent almost 6 months in 2002, and almost 4 months in 2004, 6 months in 6 to 8 months in 2003 in Vellore.
Okay, yeah.
So that would have not been possible without the support and of my family. If I didn't have my extended family with me, who were there standing by me and looking after these things, it would have been very difficult.
So, were your husband still there, and in his duty, or was he?
Yeah, he was, but yeah, see, being in the Air Force, again, the Air Force, everybody was of a big help, to us. You see, Forge is like an extended family too. All
Right.
your friends and all your friends are your family also, because we live. Most of the stations are away from your own city where you stay. So generally, most of spend time in so many stations together. So they are like your second family, and everybody, right from the people who were the higher ups in the for my husband and all, they were all very cooperative. So we had, I'm really, that's what I'm saying, we have to count all these blessings, because without all this support, it is not possible that, one can get through such a harrowing time of 9 years.
Exactly.
To keep your morale high for 9 years continuously is not easy. So for that, you need to be have a good support system around you.
Very, 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 very good support system. And like, how did you manage your profession? You also being a doctor, like, how did you manage it?
To be honest, Nimisha, from 2001 till 2012, I was not really working, because I was in no position to work.
Yeah, to
I
work.
did not
Yeah.
even know whether I would come out of this situation at that time. I mean, that was always the big question mark. I was not mobile, and immunity was very low. So there was no question of me working. But yes, I would talk to a lot of patients whom I would get references from.
Okay.
Somebody would say, somebody would pass on my number to some friend who was suffering. I would talk to them and sort of, cheer them up. So I started doing a little bit of counseling that way. And
Okay.
then 2011 onwards, many a times I would go to the hospital on my own, army hospital, and I would ask my doctors if they needed help, for to talk to patients on anybody. I just wanted, at that time, it was more so that I wanted to give back to, I wanted to help them in whatever way. They had done so much for me. So in whatever way I could help some other patient, um, I would feel very good about it. So I started doing that. Then in 2014 or 15, there was an NGO that was started by a young man called Rahul Yadav.
Okay.
He was also a multiple myeloma patient,
Okay.
and I met him again to the army hospital only, and he started this NGO called Yodhas, that is Indians Fighting Against Cancer. It was an online support system group.
Okay. Okay.
So I joined them, and
Mhm.
I'm still with them. Unfortunately, we lost Rahul in 2017. Yeah, so we lost him to cancer, to multiple myeloma only. But his wife and his father continued this Yodha's legacy, which he had started. And we lost his father also about 2 years back. So now his wife is there, and then we have few eminent doctors who are on the group. there's one retired hematologist from the army, from the Air Force, who is also with us. So we have lot many patients. We have 3 or 4 WhatsApp groups, patient support groups, and we have a Facebook page. So wherein we support lot many patients. So different kinds of cancer, blood cancers, organ cancer. If they have any questions and queries, somebody is having, there are no doctors, like especially now when people are not able to meet doctors in the COVID times. So they'll contact us and they'll want us to see their reports or whatever. So we get back to them. When somebody is having a bad day, somebody needs to be counseled, somebody wants to go for a transplant, wants to know about the effects of that. So we are there for them. So we counsel them, we tell them what are try to help them out. Then we have these, we also have certain cancer awareness campaigns that we run. Last 2 years, nothing much has been done on that because of the COVID. We haven't had these camps. Otherwise, a lot of NCC camps. We used to do at least 2 NCC camps. We used to have a program during on cancer awareness and all that. So this is what I do right now, and once in a while I see some OPD patients also.
Okay. Yeah, so like what do people need to expect when they get this cancer type?
See, my thing is, first thing, we need to accept. See, unfortunately, in our country, cancer is still a stigma, because people and the people tend to hide it, especially not only the low socioeconomic groups, but you will be amazed that even some educated people are generally, when we talk to certain patients also and their caregivers also, we tell them that you need to gently break the news of the cancer to the patient also, because see, he will come to know once the chemo starts and everything, they will lose their hair and all those, so they will come to know that something is happening. So it can be done gently, in the beginning, slowly prepare the patient, how to prepare, we tell them those things also, and prepare the patient as to how you can break the news to them, and then tell them that then when, especially when I talk to them, when they see me, like somebody who has gone through it and has and is still surviving, so I tell them that, look, even I was not given a long time to live. When I was diagnosed, I was told that I do not have much time, but today I am there. So nothing is in black and white that you have only so much time. It is finally what you want for yourself. What is your willpower? If you think that you want to survive, anything can, they say there's a very famous saying by Paul in, if you've read that book, Paul Coelho's Alchemist, that book, if you have read, yes. So in that he says that, if you desire something with all your heart, the whole universe conspires for you to get it. So that is something we all must remember, that it is what you want, what you're wishing. So that is why when people speak the words also, they speak certain words very, uh, I mean, unconsciously they speak it. They don't, that, abhi to mera khatam ho gaya, abhi to yehi ho gaya. I mean, literally you're sealing your future, your everything on your own before giving it a try. So we don't have to do that. Yes, there are bad cases, and everybody doesn't is not lucky to get the treatment options, because cancer treatment can be very expensive. So people have financial constraints and all. But what I always tell them is that, so every patient, especially if he's a breadwinner in the family, he must tell his family about what all are his financial liabilities and what are his assets, so that the family is prepared. Because there have been so many cases we have come across, that the family doesn't know anything, and when the person has lost his battle, then that is another battle for the family to face, which can be quite grueling at times, and it can be very painful for the family. So that these are certain truths, which we need to face. So when we are talking to a patient, it is very important to let them know that, first of all, accept what you have, that yes, there is a problem, and yes, there is a solution. Secondly, and everything is on me also, how I take care of my health from now on. And see, physical health, the doctors are going to take care. What you need to take care is of your mental health.
Mental health.
How strong you're going to be. Yes, you have to know that this is not going to be an easy journey. It's going to be a painful journey. You're going to have episodes of pain. You're going to have not so good days. But everything is not always, I always tell people that, you should think of it as a curve which, is always going, because whatever comes down has to go up sometime. So there will be good days and there will be bad days. And otherwise also, even if you have that limited time, why not make the best use of that time with your family? And when you know that if you're going to spend all your time just thinking why this has happened to me, why this has happened, you're losing on very important time which you could spend with your family. Make them aware of what all things are there, what all they need to know about everything. So these are very important things, which I feel through this, if I can make people understand, it will be very nice, because these are common problems which we see when we are counseling patients. When I meet a lot of people, so these are common problems which patients come across. So, accept it what you have. Yes, you have a problem, and then there is a solution, and face it strongly. Have to have a good diet. So it's like preparing for a battle. How you prepare for a battle. You have all your guards. You accumulate all your information first, and then you accumulate all your information about the enemy, and then you collect all your weaponry also, and then you make yourself strong to face that, to fight that battle. So that is exactly what we have to do. And then, yes, I also advise people that they should do yoga, pranayam, and meditation, because that goes a long way in helping the person mentally also and physically. Yes, why? Because everything is in the mind. If your mind believes that you can heal yourself, there is nothing to stop it. Nothing in the world will stop. You can do it, because you have to believe that you can heal. And when you do pranayam, the amount of oxygen you take inside your body is 5 times more than the normal oxygen that we take. So that much of oxygen for the cells, which is again going to be a very good thing for the cells. So it's a life-giving thing. So these are small things which we can do apart from what the doctors are doing. See, follow the medical path and do these small things alongside it. That will keep you physically and mentally strong to face the effects of the treatment and the disease.
So, like along with this, were you like so much the lifestyle which you opted after or during your treatment? Like, was it same or was it different from before? Like the yoga and everything.
See, I've always been a exercise-oriented person. Like I used to always walk. I used to go for a swim. I used to do a little bit of cycling and all before I felt sick. But yes, all that had to change because my main thing was walking, and I was not able to walk. So for almost 8-9 years of my life, those 10 years, I really didn't walk at all. Apart from walking on a walker, I did not walk. And I remember still that when I first took my steps without the walker, I had forgotten how to walk normally. And my husband used to literally hold my hand and teach me, how you teach a child to walk, put your leg ahead, and this. I used to walk like that. So it took me time to start walking in a proper way. It was like again finding my steps once again. So
was a bit difficult at that time. Yeah.
But otherwise, I have always been health conscious in that sense. But after this, after my this facing my cancer, yoga became a big part of my life, especially pranayam, and I could not do the asanas during that time because of my scleroderma also. But last 4 to 5 years, I have been very regular with my yoga asanas also. Whatever I can do, little bit. I mean, I couldn't do any. I couldn't think that I would ever be able to do any Surya Namaskar or anything. But today I can comfortably do a good number of Surya Namaskars. And that is what keeps my scleroderma also under control, because if
Yes.
if you say that yoga makes you flexible, for me it is an everyday journey even now, because every day morning again my body is as stiff as it is the you know as it would be, and
Oh.
after yoga it will slowly open up. So the stiffness
Oh.
is still there, not as much as what it was in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, but still it is
So
there.
are you still on some medications for this thing?
No, I'm not on any medication. I have stopped all medication, means
Mm.
by my advice of my doctors only. They have not
Okay,
given
okay.
me any medication after.
So
I used
did
to
you?
take a
Mhm.
little bit of Ayurvedic medicines
Mm.
for a few years too, and simple things like ashwagandha for my bones, and curcumin I used to take for improving the immunity. That I
Okay.
was taking.
Okay. This was what I was going to ask. So did you take any alternative medicines along with the allopathy which doctors were giving?
My main alternative medicine was my connection with the Supreme. That is my main alternative medicine, which I tell people that see, if you think of Ayurveda, homeopathy, I have taken both. I have taken homeopathy also at some stage in my treatment,
Mm-hmm.
but one has to understand that the main line of treatment has to be allopathy.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
whatever Ayurveda or homeopathy you're going to take, it is just an adjunctive. Because see, if homeopathy and Ayurveda are not going to cure your cancer, it is just that certain side effects of the medicines, or uh, improving your immunity, all that way it can help. Definitely it can help. But
Mm-hmm.
to think that it is going to cure you of your cancer, I think is a little too far fetched right now.
So, like in this particular type of cancer, what is the importance of self-examination? Like, how can one self-examine that he or she is facing
For my
this?
kind of, if you're asking for my kind of thing like multiple myeloma, it is
Yes.
not possible. It is something in the blood, so it also hits your bones. So you can have
Mm-hmm.
some kind of bony lesions, or bone pains and all that. Many people see, basically multiple myeloma is a cancer which generally affects people over the age of 50. But nowadays people, much younger cases are being seen, with suffering from multiple myeloma. And so it is just basically some kind of bony pain or something people might come to, or they might come with anemia, that
Okay.
their
Yeah.
hemoglobin has come down, they are
Mm-hmm.
feeling tired, and then when you investigate you might find out that they have multiple myeloma. So it's like that.
Okay.
It's
So,
not
like,
like
mm,
in breast cancers and all, where, or if you have an oral cancer, you have an oral, some kind of a patch on your in your mouth or
mouth.
something,
Mm-hmm.
that you can one can go and see a doctor. Or in breast cancer, like you have a lump, so you go to the doctor.
Doctor,
So
yeah.
it's not
Mm-hmm.
something like that. It's, yeah, if you have some bone pain, generally people suffer from backache. Many people have lesion in their back in multiple myeloma, so they will go for a backache. And many people can be found, sometimes people get viral disease, viral fevers and all, and then over a period of their investigations they can be found to have anemia, they can be found to have certain changes in their blood
Changes.
tests which can
Mm-hmm.
show that they are having multiple myeloma. Yeah, but no self-examining test as such.
Okay. So, like, is there any one parting message you would like to give to people out there who are going through the same thing?
um, as I already told you before, that my main parting message for everybody would be that the willpower of your own willpower has to be stronger than the willpower of the disease, because it's not only the disease as such, but if you see the whole thing, it is not cancer. If it affects, it doesn't only affect you. You see, it
Hmm.
affects the whole family. And I'm telling you, more than you yourself, it is the family which suffers, because you're suffering from the physical ailments and all, but the family is also suffering equally badly. So we have to think of this as a collective battle. I feel we all face it together, and whatever be the outcome, whatever time
Hmm.
you have, you make the most of it. Make the most of what time you have. And I'm sure everybody has heard umpteen number of times people telling them that you have to be positive and you have to face things positively.
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done when one is suffering so much and one is in pain. Because if somebody, if any lay person you ask, if you have flu or you have a viral, you're down with fever and a headache, and you are lying in bed for 2 days, you feel your whole world has come down. You know. So here it is not a question of 2 days and 3 days. It's going to be something which is going to be there with you for some time to come.
Few
So to
months and
be
few
ready for a
years.
battle for like that, one has to be mentally strong and prepared for it. So I mean, accept it, be prepared for it, and also understand that this life that you have is a gift. So whatever present time you have, don't let it go. Just even if you're not well, I mean, you can do so many
Hmm.
things with your children, with your family. You can watch a
Yeah.
movie, and don't stop living. That is very important. Don't think that just because today we have a cancer patient in family, so we have to stop doing all the normal things that we used to do. Play
Mm-hmm.
music in the house, have fun in the house with with the patient also. Like, let the patient also experience those happy moments, because that's why you will feel a person comes back from the hospital, they'll always say, हम घर जाते हैं तो हमें ज़्यादा अच्छा लगता है.
अच्छा लगता है.
Why?
Hmm.
Because the atmosphere at home is such. So make the atmosphere like that. I have seen many patients whose families, whenever I used to see, if I used to go and visit them, I used to find that the whole family would be like मौसम छाया हुआ है घर में. I said that he's not gone yet. So don't start. I mean, make the most of the time that you have right now. Enjoy this time. Play some nice music, whatever the person likes. Watch a nice funny movie. Play some board game, or just chat with friends. And there are not many things one can do, but
Hmm.
one needs to do that. You should not stop living, which is very important. It is a part. Just take it as a part of your journey. Yes, in the journey of my life, this station has come wherein I had this breakdown.
Yeah.
My body has
Hmm.
had this breakdown, and now this needs to be tended to. But doesn't matter. Even though it is if I have to tend to it, there are so many other distractions in front of me. Let me sort of, make myself strong or keep myself happy by looking at those, and not only focus on the disease and feel sad all the time. And yes, spirituality also helps you in your journey, because all this strength, where does it come from? It comes from your connection to the Supreme, for your faith. For me, at least, it was that I always felt God's uh, God by my side in my toughest moments, especially. I always felt that He was at my side, and uh, I had some very nice experiences wherein I would feel that uh, uh, like my life is leaving this body, and I'm as it is fighting with God that no, I'm not ready to come still. Well, so then that is when I kept remembering and reminding myself of this thing, that as if somebody is telling me that if you want to live, then be stronger than the disease. So that is my main message to the people who are watching this, that keep the willpower of your own willpower stronger than the willpower of the disease. Live your life as much as you can with happiness during your journey. Don't wait for tomorrow, that after everything gets better I will live my life. Live right now and make it beautiful when the tomorrow comes also.
your your journey is totally inspiring. I mean, people cry over small things. We do cry over small things. Like if we do not get something, if we have planned something for ourselves and we do not come across those plannings, we cry over that. But listening to you, listening to many people around like you, have actually created a new mindset that okay, there has to be something. If anything is happening, if it's happening for good, just accept it and just live your life. And
Yes.
I have seen that, and your journey is really very inspiring. i'm sure I'm sure you're gonna inspire everyone out there.
I hope so.
So
That is
yes,
my
definitely.
that is my wish. If I can inspire somebody, and if somebody can become a little stronger by just listening to what I have said,
They
I
will
will be very
definitely.
thankful to that person and to God that okay, I could affect at least help some person.
because whenever I talk to people, I tell my mom the same stories. So she has been a cancer patient at once in 2016. So I tell her all the stories, and she feels so good. She feels so happy listening to everyone through me. So I just feel connected with everything. Ki, okay, I have seen this. I know what someone might have felt, and they have come out of it, and it is totally inspiring for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, it is not that, it's not that we are like I am something special that I have been able to get over this journey. No, that power is there within each one of us. But
Yeah.
it's just that, we have never tapped that power. We have never even looked at ourselves that way. Because unless you're faced in life with a situation like that, then only all that you get enough courage to muster all that with all
Mm.
that is strength that is there within you to fight it.
Right.
It's like when you're faced with something like a tiger or some a wild animal. They say no, that you will not realize how much power you have to run. Otherwise,
Yeah.
a normal person who will not be able to run will
Run
run
that
at
way.
so it's like that. Where does that power come from? It is there within you. It's just
Mm.
that is just waiting to be tapped. So it's with all of us. All of us have that power within us. Just that
We
we
just
need to
have
recognize
to,
it.
yeah, recognize and
Yeah.
make us remember that okay, we have this power and it's time to use it, and we should use it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Gayatri. Thank you so much for connecting to us
Thank you,
and
Nisha.
inspiring with
It's
everything.
wonderful talking to you, and I hope all the patients out there listening to me will keep fighting their cancer, and they themselves will keep inspiring people around. Definitely, every journey is an inspiration in itself. Thank you.
So, thank you so much, Gayatri.
Bye.